Hello. After I yelled at my in-laws, releasing my pent-up resentment, I feel calm now, so I'm sending in my story. I was ashamed of myself for being a fool, even in my 30s, who couldn't refuse my in-laws' unreasonable requests. Before I got married, I used to watch soap operas, feeling frustrated why the main heroine endures such suffering. Who knew that I would become that heroine in the drama? In other words, the cause of this situation can be summarized as an ill-fated meeting between my immoral in-laws and a daughter-in-law with low self-esteem. Doesn't it sound like a title of a popular song? Ha ha ha. I met my husband at an aesthetic salon as a customer and an owner. These days, it is common for men to receive skincare, but at that time, it was rare for men to care about the skin. Thus, I gave my husband a VIP treatment. My husband had referred other customers, so I used a more expensive mask pack than normally or gave him 10 minutes longer treatment. I admit that I had a self-serving motive to increase sales a little too. Through my service, I was inducing the customers to continue purchasing their membership. My husband seemed an innocent person who warmed up to my services, and while receiving a facial massage, he suddenly confessed his feelings towards me. During massages, it was my service strategy to talk about personal matters with my customers, so I talked to him as usual, but my husband must have felt intimate with me for having such talks. At first, I was too bewildered and just laughed it off, but he still continued after that. Without realizing it, my heart opened up to him a little by little. We ended up falling in love passionately, who couldn't be apart even for one day of not seeing each other despite our busy schedules. Within 6 months, my husband proposed to me. We were dating one day, enamored with each other, when my husband's sister called. My husband answered the phone smiling, but soon his face turned serious and said, "Don't worry, we love each other very much." He hurriedly hung up the phone. When I saw his worried look, I asked him about it. My sister is concerned that we may have decided to get married too early. He was vague and trailed off his sentence. When I heard that, I recalled my painful past and became anxious. Before I met my husband, I had experienced a painful breakup with a man I truly loved because his parents objected me. I am almost like an orphan because my mom died when I was very young and my father remarried. My ex-boyfriend's family was very conservative, academically oriented, and disapproved of my family background. Thus, we eventually broke up. From that trauma, even though many great eligible men died, my husband was the only one who was able to melt away such fear within me. When I was with him, I felt secure, and I could laugh naturally, not a forced sales clerk smiles. When I heard that his mother had been hospitalized in a nursing home for a long time, I didn't hesitate to get married, and I rather wanted to be of help to him. I don't know what came over me, but before the wedding, we legally registered our marriage first, and even during busy time managing the salon, I would make time to care for his mother in the nursing home. Of course, a nurse's aide was present, but with many patients in one room, she couldn't pay closer attention to all the patients eating. Whenever I had no appointment, I took a short break to care for his mom's meals and snacks. Since I didn't receive love from my own family, I wanted to be accepted into my husband's family and tried my best. When his dad would call, no matter how busy I was, I rushed to see him and did everything that he requested, even though it was hard at times. I did my best to be friendly to his sister, to please her too. Many people objected to my marrying into a family with a sick mother-in-law in a nursing home, even if my husband had a stable government job. Everyone said that I was heading right into an arduous life, but I hid my anxiety and proceeded with the wedding because I did not want to lose a good man like my husband. Because my in-laws' financial situation was not good then, we began our newlywed in a rented, dilapidated unit, which didn't even have an air conditioner, and the place had poor ventilation, making it very stuffy. My husband was in an entry governmental position with a minimum wage salary, and because I opened up the salon with a bank loan, neither of us had any cash. However, I was just happy thinking that I finally had a stable family that I always dreamed about. We lived on a shoestring budget, eating out only when we worked part-time as a restaurant evaluators, or going to see the movies free by accumulating points, and saved money like a miser. Because my father-in-law did not work, we still gave him some spending money, and bought him an air conditioner that we didn't even have at our place, and a car, albeit a used one. However, my in-laws took all these sacrifices for granted. Their demands from me increased as days went by. One day, my sister-in-law called me from New York. "Since you have a hard time trying to buy gifts for my kids, so to reduce your hassles, I selected what you can buy them. This holiday, you don't have to worry and buy those." When she talked as if she was a help, I almost cursed her out loud. At that time, I was undergoing a deep despair because we couldn't have a baby due to my husband's infertility. Despite lack of money, I tried hard to buy gifts and give spending money to her 2 children, remembering their birthdays and all the holidays, including Christmas. We could hardly afford to do it, but I often felt forced upon me. But she always expected them from us, and my husband, as the only uncle, tried to treat them well. His sister was insensitive to my being emotionally devastated due to infertility. She only demanded gifts for her children, which made me feel so frustrated. I wondered how she could be so inconsiderate toward us in this sad situation and outright demand gifts for her children. At one time, she actually gave me some advice saying, "You won't even have any children, but why are you so money-oriented? You don't have many expenses as a couple, do you? We have children, so we need to move to a bigger house. You can afford to chip in for us." I was dumbfounded at her attitude. She was the one to borrow money from us, who were still poor but dared to criticize us for living thriftily, trying to save money. As an older sister, she never helped my husband. That's how we saved money, so we were able to lend you money and give monthly spending money to your dad. Have you ever even bought any snacks for your own mother in the nursing home? I thought to myself. Each time, I felt fury inside, but to keep peace in the family, I kept silent. One day, my husband must have been very angry at his sister's continued demands that he secretly sent a letter expressing his resentment, along with his nephew's gift. However, his sister's selfish attitude did not change. One day, she sent me a text message with a dress photo. I want to buy this dress, but our town does not have this branch. I found out that the same branch is nearby your house. I really want to get this, so what should I do? I was speechless. The message was none other than asking me to get it for her. When my husband read it, he still sided with his sister. Honey, why do you always look at my sister in a bad light? She's just commenting that it's a dress she wants to buy. Is he stupid or what? Is that a message that she is just making an expression? My husband treated me like I was being too sensitive. He felt so distant from me at that time. When we were dating, I thought he was the one on my side, but after getting married, he sided with his family like the peas in a pod stick together. The incident was passed over, but when I met his sister over the holidays, she said to me outright after the dinner, "Didn't you buy that dress I told you about? I didn't know you were a person who has no sense." My husband then believed me after he heard his sister saying that. He found out what kind of sister he had then. Nevertheless, my husband still let himself be the bank for his family. He had a chip on his shoulder that since his mother was in the nursing home, he had to take on the responsibility for the family. He seemed to think he had to act like his mother to embrace his selfish sister, and couldn't say no to her unreasonable demands. I tried to listen to my husband's reasoning and put myself in his sister's shoes. I did my best to be generous to her, but she said something to me that she should not have. Actually, I was against this marriage. Since my mother had been ill for a long time, my brother needed a lot of love. But since you lost your mom when you were young and must have grown without receiving any love, right? How could such a person give love to my brother? Also, my brother has a very secure government job, but you operate merely a massage salon. Your level doesn't match ours, to tell you the truth. She spoke casually while eating the food I had prepared for her. I was childless because of her brother. I was bankrolling for her and her family. How could she look down on me and my business? Then I recalled a phone call from her when my husband's face turned grim. I figured she must have said that to my husband. If she was going to say it, she should have told me before we got married. I felt like throwing that table full of my cooked meals upside down. I couldn't take what she said, so I flared back to her. A lot of people around me objected to this marriage as well. With sick mother-in-law with entry-level government job with a salary lower than mine, with an unemployed father-in-law at home, would you have married into such a family if it were you? If you are doing the math as you say, isn't it more disadvantageous for me to get married? My friends, when they got married, their in-laws helped out a lot for the wedding. But what happened in our case? Just the two of us did it. I came into a poor family like yours and took care of your sick mother and unemployed father. So am I not more on the losing end? So, please stop saying who has more losses anymore. I returned exactly as she said to me. Then she glared at me, shaking with anger. "You know what? Let's not see each other unless at a family funeral." Then she left briskly. After that, she called my husband behind my back and said all kinds of bad things about me. I didn't care. I wasn't afraid of her. We lent her a loan without any interest and took care of her mother, yet she still acted so mean to me, so I felt it was better this way. I hated seeing someone I disliked on every holiday occasion, but I would be relieved from that, so I was happy. However, my husband wasn't. After getting phone calls from his sister, he seemed under great stress, and he even wet the bed. I couldn't believe how a man could be so emotionally weak. I couldn't sleep for days with such a pathetic husband. I recalled all the ridiculously ungrateful things his sister committed against us. She never thanked us for our lending money to her, and she made us pay for all the food at the family gatherings. That was not all. During the holidays, she would just leave her kids for me to babysit without asking, as she had to go to see her friend. Every holiday, she would outright demand for me to send her children's clothes, school bags, spending money, and so forth. Even now, I would get angry just thinking about them. I gritted my teeth and swallowed resentment at all her insolent demands just because she's a family, but it seemed to run in her family. My father-in-law was also like that. He had never done anything for us, yet he was so demanding. I visited him several times a week despite my busy work schedules, but each time he would mention giving him money and nagged at me constantly. One day, he showed me the food stuck between his teeth while eating and said, "Look at my teeth. I think I need to get an implant. I could chew food better if I had an implant. My friend's son gave his dad $10,000 cash to get the implant. So we had to get him an implant on a loan. Then he said, our senior association members are going to Hawaii, and their children all offered to pay for the travel expenses. We also paid for that on credit since I wondered how much he must have wanted to travel. Then, could you imagine what he said after that? I wasn't going to say this, but are you treating me like a child? How could you give me only $500 for my spending money? So I asked him how much he wanted, and he said, it's not like how much I want. My friend George and my neighbor John all received twice that amount. I thought I was going to go crazy. It was not exactly that he was poor. His house was valued to be over $400,000, and he had bought a brand new car, and he gets monthly pension money. I heard that he had several thousands of dollars in his savings account. He was not wealthy, but compared to his friends around his age, he was doing better than average now. He never did anything to help us, yet he kept demanding we do something for him. Seemed so selfish. Everyone in his family claims my husband's entry government job as if it's a trophy or something. For me, I just couldn't understand his family. We started to get tired of the unreasonable monetary demands from his father and his sister. Before I got married, I really wanted to consider them as my own, but I could no longer continue like this. It felt like they were using my husband, who wasn't that great, as a justification to demand money out of us. I was truly sick of it. Worse, my husband couldn't say no and kept being dragged around at their whim. I always ended up the victim of these scenarios. I couldn't stand it any longer, so I asked for a divorce. My husband seemed shocked at my demand and spent several days just drinking. His mom was on a respirator with difficulty in breathing. The doctor said there was no hope and told us to prepare for her death. Suddenly, tears ran down my cheek. Even though it was an urgent situation, his sister did not come to the nursing home. When my husband called, she said she had something going on at home and couldn't come. I became angry at her, but since she had children, she must have a good excuse and accepted it. Between his father and me, we sat by his mother's bed. It was my birthday, but I let it pass as we faced his mother's death. 3 days later, she passed away. She looked peaceful as if in her sleep. His sister came to the funeral bringing her children. I disliked her for not showing up at the nursing home even once, but since she lost her mother, I kept my silence. We went back home after the funeral. Upon returning, I fell asleep on the sofa from fatigue. My husband also said he fell asleep as soon as he fell on the bed. We finally awoke in the late afternoon to eat the first meal of the day. As soon as I sat on the sofa after eating, I opened the social media link on my phone and I was shocked. New photos of his sister were uploaded. They were the photos of her having a birthday party at a luxury condo in Hawaii with her friends. When I saw the uploaded date, it was her birthday celebration for sure. I remembered her birthday was 1 day after mine. The problem with these photos was that the day she was celebrating her birthday in Hawaii was the day her mother on the verge of dying. I was the one at my mother-in-law's deathbed, yet her only daughter was having a party and didn't even come to the hospital. I could only curse at my sister-in-law. On the other hand, seeing her rude behavior thus far, I wasn't surprised. She borrowed money from us who live on a shoestring budget, saying she had no money. Yet, she uploaded all kinds of photos of her eating at expensive restaurants, buying luxury brand clothes, and traveling abroad on vacation. What was more shocking was still to come. Because my husband was a government employee, he had a lot of guests at the funeral and they had donated over $30,000 in cash. From his sister's guests, $2,000 were donated. Then, suddenly, she asked to use the money donations to go on a tour as a family. How could we go on a tour when their mother died a few days ago? The donations received were really like debts because it should be returned when those people have funerals. It was a give and take and not free money. Still, his sister was greedy for that money and came up with the golden word family to shake up my weakling husband. I really felt that she was hopeless. Even though my husband felt the same way, he said he didn't want to fight over money after his mother just passed away. He said instead of taking a tour, he gave the money back to his sister to end the matter. We paid the funeral expenses and the balance was given to his father. Only then, his sister stopped mentioning the trip since she got the money she wanted. Then, his mother's first-year Memorial Day arrived. We all headed to her ossuary. Then, suddenly his sister mentioned to her father, saying, "Dad, sell your house and give it to me." I wondered why she was saying that. Her father had only that house as his asset, and if he sold the house, where would he live? It was so nonsense. In retrospect, because I cared for her mother for over 8 years and also took care of her father, she was making sure to protect his asset in case he died. I felt so outraged that I let out my pent-up resentment. You didn't even come to see your mother when she was at her deathbed, and you were having a birthday party at a luxury hotel condo, and now you're greedy for your father's house when he's still living? We have no intention of taking his house and want him to live there comfortably by switching it to his pension plan. So don't try to take away the only asset your father has. And why don't you cook some meals on his birthdays? You keep delaying his birthday since it is close to the New Year's Day, but I have been cooking his birthday meals for now 9 years. Whenever he is sick, I'm the one who gets his medication and cook for him. You're his only daughter in name only, and what have you done for him? You should grow up and act like a grown-up, and please close that mouth of yours to prove you are such a bad daughter, okay? I will leave to your imagination what happened after I said that. The hell gate opened, and a big havoc. Why wouldn't it? While her mother was on her deathbed, the daughter went to Hawaii with her friends to celebrate her birthday and partied like that. My weakling husband couldn't hold down his anger this time and started to curse at his sister, creating a big argument. I could care less how they fought and went home alone. Later, my husband told me that she claimed she was treated unfairly and plopped down sobbing, cursing at me. My husband was so immature to relay all that to me as well. After that day of my pouring out all my complaints about his sister, I changed my phone number and had not contacted her. His sister, who took me for granted to demand to take care of her family and treated me rudely in the meantime, stopped calling me. When we kept our distance, she suddenly called my husband at work. My husband also was sick and tired of her putting him through many crises that he had stopped contacting her either. If he continued, he was facing a divorce from me. A few days ago, his father also came over without any notice saying he was out of money, hinting at another payout from me. So I smiled and said, "Father, we're still renting, so we have no money. If you really need money, why not ask your daughter, who owns a house that has significantly appreciated now? Why do you keep asking us when you never helped us? I'm not your rainmaker. Also, whenever you become sick, please call your daughter from now on. Isn't she your daughter? Why are you demanding only from us? Just because we are smiling, don't you worry at all about your own son? I'm going to change the door passkey from now on, so please don't just drop in without any notice like this." I felt I needed to take care of my own family instead of others. If we continued like this, I didn't think we could survive. His father, who was relentless, calling me constantly to make his demands several times a day, stopped calling me at all after that day. Instead, he was calling his son demanding money. However, my husband had now woken up and seemed to say no to his father. So what could I do but accept the situation whether I like it or not? My husband told me that since I stopped doing for his father and his sister, they started demanding from each other and fighting over them. His sister was demanding from her father the inheritance from her mother's death. I don't have to see how they would be fighting. They are alike, like father, like daughter. I had to let them abuse me, thinking it would keep peace in the family. I decided I won't do that any longer. I just need to be faithful to myself first, and then take care of my husband who is a precious family member. Thank you for listening to my story and wish that your family is full of happiness. Please write your wise advice in the comments section. Your pressing like and subscription help me a lot. I wish you a nice day.